Before we begin, thank you very much to Hawkwave for joining the Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/TJOmega. Here I am preparing to do the Beast Wars episode reviews, and you guys almost have me at the next milestone, which is the Beast Machines episode reviews. Uh, there's nothing I can say that I haven't said a dozen times over already in these intros. Thank you guys so much for the support. It means the world to me, and I will try everything I can to live up to that support. And hopefully we just keep everything rolling, and everyone has fun doing it. So, once upon a time, I tackled one of the biggest what-if questions in Transformers, which was, what if Optimus Prime survived the '86 movie? My response to Transformers Deviations, which I believe was mostly a hit piece against Hot Rod, and not even remotely close to what would have happened. My interpretation might not have changed a lot, but I do think it is the accurate way the movie probably would have gone. So, I thought, why end it there? Because what follows gets a lot more interesting. So today we are going to do part 2, and we will look at the events of 5 Faces of Darkness if Optimus Prime was still around. Now, of course, if you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a card here on the video so you can go click it and watch real quick. Otherwise, a lot of this is probably going to be confusing. Also, thank you to everyone who sent fan art of Nova Scream. I haven't... That was very unexpected and very, very cool. For the purposes of this video, though, I'm giving a shout out to Astromotive_97, making sure I got that right, for actually doing a version of Nova Scream that's was pretty spot on to what I imagined. So that is going to be our visual representation, with a splash of colors thrown on by myself. So what you're seeing on screen is essentially what I was envisioning. When I said, a sleek Energon Galvatron, but with Starscream trappings and like the coronation style designs, like that was mostly just to give you a quick mental representation. But yeah, I think it works pretty well. See, the way I envisioned it, sweeps were going to turn into the sweeps no matter what, whether it was a Seeker or an Insecticon, and Cyclonus was the same. It's just designs Unicron had. But Galvatron was definitely patterned after Megatron, so I figured that's what Nova Scream would be. There would be tracings of Starscream left behind, but still somewhat close to Galvatron. So thank you guys for everyone who tried to capture that imagination. So let's go on with the actual story. So we begin where 5 Faces of Darkness began, at the Galactic Olympics, where we have a very funny name for Jazz, and a Optimus Prime alive and well presiding over it, giving speeches of concord and tranquility across the galaxy. This Earth tradition now spans the galaxy, and Optimus sees it as a way of uniting different worlds in case the Decepticons return. Or rather, when they return. Hot Rod, bored to tears by all this, doesn't really see much point because the Decepticons have been completely sent off Cybertron, and they have not heard of them in a long time. But Optimus has dealt with these guys long enough to know they're just waiting. They'll be back, and their job is to sow peace and cooperation until that happens, so everyone can be prepared. Speaking of lack of preparation, explosions start going off, and smoke starts filling the arena as what we eventually would know as Sharkticons begin attacking the event. In the aftermath, Spike, Cup, and Optimus Prime have gone missing, and now Ultra Magnus is the de facto leader, commanding Hot Rod, Springer, and RC to give chase to the fleeing vehicle that they spot in the sky. And then it is up to Ultra Magnus to do the investigating to figure out exactly what happened here. Thanks to a little bit of digging from Blaster and Outback, they do learn that the Decepticons have a brand new home planet of Char, and that is probably where they believe they're going to find their assailants. And, of course, we still take along Grimlock because if you're going to go spy on Decepticons, you're going to want your biggest muscle backing you up. I don't know why it's just the one, but hey, I'm not arguing that part of the story. It doesn't go well. As you know, they find the Decepticons in pretty shabby conditions, too low on energon to actually mount any kind of assault anywhere, let alone actually attack, someplace guarded by Autobots. So, with the conclusion that it couldn't be the Decepticons, Grimlock gives away their position, and the two do get thoroughly beaten up until the Skuxoid ship appears, this time driven by Hot Rod, with Springer and RC providing cover fire for Magnus and Grimlock. This ends about the same way you would expect. Rather than a Optimus Prime clinging to life, it's Ultra Magnus. But remember, Hot Rod has proven himself to be a fairly capable field medic. So the same way he patched up Cup in the 86 movie, he has now done the same for Ultra Magnus, getting him back on his feet. And the entire situation reminds him of that incident, and reminds Hot Rod of who else might have been behind this attack. The Quintessons. Prior to the arrival of the Autobots, of course, Cyclonus and the Sweeps arrived on Char, promising the return of Nova Scream. But this doesn't really have the response that they were expecting. With Galvatron, they knew it was Megatron, just in a new upgraded form, so they still had their loyalties to him, but this is different. Starscream pined for the Decepticon leadership for literally millions of years, and when he finally got it, it was an absolute disaster. Nova Scream lost them the planet Cybertron on his first day in command. Not the best way to kick off the leadership that you've been wanting for so long. So, not all the Decepticons are really thrilled about the idea of him returning. But, of course, Cyclonus, being the ever-loyal soldier that he is, takes the Sweeps to Unicron's head to dig out exactly what happened to Nova Scream. This time, they don't really have to do any scouring or searching. Nova Scream is already there. In the aftermath of the battle with Unicron, he managed to escape to the head before it was blown off of the body, and now he has spent his time researching and even repairing some of the parts of the head. Nova Scream now has a new ambition. While Unicron is in this dormant, mostly destroyed state, he is vulnerable to pretty much anything Nova Scream can do. And with the right resources and enough energon, he's pretty convinced he can turn the Planet Destroyer into a weapon for his new Decepticon army. It's an ambitious plan, of course, but Cyclonus and the Sweeps, they're going to go along with it. They are going to be loyal to Nova Scream to the end. In the process of going over all this, they are going to be updated on what is going on in the universe since Nova Scream's defeat. And, of course, this is going to include the building of the Earth Defense Platform that was originally mentioned to Galvatron. And this is going to cue up Nova Scream's time to go and present himself to the universe again and reveal his return. Because, let's face it, this is Starscream. He's going to be boastful and he's going to be braggadocious. So he might as well get it out of the way and show off just how strong he is. And this is, of course, where Blur and Wheelie's side of the story basically kicks off. Their delivery of the transformation cog to Earth getting interrupted and sidetracked, which leaves them abandoned on one of Jupiter's moons, and then everything with Skylynx, the Predacons, and then the final appearance on Earth with Metroplex and Trypticon. For the sake of argument, assume all of that happens pretty much the same way it played out in Five Faces of Darkness. Optimus Prime being alive really doesn't factor into that side of the story, so it's pretty much going to go off without a hitch. It's just going to be Nova Scream who kicks it off rather than Galvatron. We turn our attention to Quintessa and the captured Autobots, Spike, Cup, and Optimus Prime. When we get there, it's not Cup who's being questioned this time. They're going straight for the leader, Optimus Prime. The difference is that Prime has the wisdom of the Matrix on his side, so this farce of a trial is completely transparent to him. They ask him the same questions, security details, known weaknesses and defenses. Optimus Prime's response is, "I know who you are. You do not need my answers." "Then you already know that you are guilty of theft? The only thing my ancestors took from you was their freedom." Thanks to the wisdom of the Matrix, Optimus, of course, already knows about the origin of the Transformers, but he's hesitant to go on a long-winded story when they still need to focus on escaping. Now, in the previous version, they rushed the guards and then ran for the execution chamber with a hostage. Optimus is not going to play that way. They are rushing the guards, because that is Cup's idea. So that's what they are running with. However, Optimus is going to stop Spike from taking a hostage. It's not who they are. Instead, Optimus transforms and they drive off toward the landing platform that they came in on, hoping to find a ship that they can hijack. While they are driving off to this, that is when the Skuxoid ship is arriving over the Judgment Pit and the waiting Quintessons. Just like in the episode, the planetary defenses end up destroying it. However, this is causing enough distraction to not really be totally aware that the Autobots are escaping. They are stopped by several platoons of Quintessons. It's called platoons. They do injure Cup in the process, but they do manage to get enough cover once the secondary rescue mission arrives, which would be still like it is in the original, Hot Rod and RC riding in on Springer. And this time, it's Ultra Magnus piloting the ship that has the aerial bots, who are now leading an attack on that side of the planet. With ample distraction, the Quintessons in the Judgment Pit are unaware long enough for the Autobots to manage to escape in their own Quintesson ship without having the time to detonate the planet. This time, Quintessa survives, and the Autobots get away. One problem remains. Cup is badly wounded, and he may not survive the trip to Cybertron to get him proper treatment. So they set course for a closer planet that could probably fix him up a lot faster. Junkion. Once they arrive, and once Cup is back to being fully functional again, thanks to Wreck-Gar, he sits everyone down. Optimus Prime sits everyone down and starts telling the origin story of the Transformers, the original military hardware and consumer goods, the gladiatorial pits, the fight for freedom, and the beginning of the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons. Hot Rod is amazed by this. Optimus is describing events as if he was actually there, witnessing them long before his creation. This is the power of the Matrix, and it is a great responsibility that Hot Rod will one day learn to handle himself. For now, he's just getting a glimpse of just what comes with possession of the Matrix and thus leadership of the Autobots, and it's something of a bit of an awe-inspiring moment. How could it not be? The Quintessons have left their home planet aboard their own ship and have decided that no matter how grave the risk, their only way of combating the Autobots is going to be an alliance with the Decepticons. And upon arriving on Char, they find the exact same scene they originally did. A lot of desperate Transformers who can be easily bought with a stack of Energon cubes. Their command is simple. We'll give you all the Energon you can eat, and in trade, you go kill the Autobots on the planet Junk. They've tracked the ship to the stolen ship to the planet, and it's as simple as following the trail and finishing them off. As per the original story, Blitzwing is the only one that is distrustful of this. For some reason, knowing about the Quintessons and knowing he should not trust them. But the rest, they're more than happy to go blow up some Autobots. That's what they would do anyway as soon as they recharged. So, it is off to junk for a massive battle between the Autobots and Decepticons. A bit more of a dynamic one than there was in Five Faces of Darkness, because now you have Sharkticons and Junkions mixing it up as well, and nobody's stuck in a massive pile of goo, unable to really move or combat this threat. It's going fairly badly for the Autobots until Hot Rod gets an idea. Using the stolen Quintesson ship, he starts targeting the attacking Quintesson ship with its weaponry. And now we have a Quintesson ship attacking the Decepticons, which is causing a massive amount of confusion. And now they're not really sure if they've been betrayed or not. The Quintesson ship eventually destroys the stolen one, but it's enough to cause the Decepticons to fall back for a bit and try and figure out why they were just attacked by the ones who just agreed to help them out. Clever thinking on Hot Rod's part, eventually showing a little bit of sign of that wisdom he's going to need someday. Before the Decepticons can return, however, Optimus Prime does order a retreat, getting aboard the Autobot escape shuttle, and then ordering a return to Cybertron, with the Junkions staying behind and offering to give them some cover while they made their getaway. Now, let's find Nova Scream, who has returned to the planet Char and found only Blitzwing waiting for him. Blitzwing fills him in. Quintessons, the planet junk, etc. And now Nova Scream is showing the anger that being one of Unicron's children can bring with it. So, they now fly off. And with Blitzwing now basically being the only other Decepticon he trusts outside of the other Unicron boys. Upon arriving on the planet, Nova Scream's first task is to board the Quintesson ship and get control of his now chaotic Decepticons. Now, despite what they had said before about not trusting Nova Scream because of his previous failures on his first day on the job, no less, Nova Scream is still an extremely powerful figure, and most will follow him out of fear. That's all he really needs is his presence to get the Decepticons under control, and then bring the whole attention to the Quintessons and what had just happened. The deception is revealed, and then we tack on a new deception. That is, of course, the Decepticon Matrix of Leadership. The same thing that tempted Galvatron in Five Faces of Darkness, except here Nova Scream has a very different ambition for it. He has leadership of the Decepticons. It's all he really wanted. A bauble does not improve that. What he wants it for is Unicron. Knowing that the Autobot Matrix is the one thing Unicron feared, but it was unable to be opened by a Decepticon's hand, a Decepticon version of the Matrix is exactly what he needs to keep the Chaos Bringer under his thumb. It's perfect, and it's exactly the bait Nova Scream would fall for, no matter how unlikely it actually is. So, he leads the charge back onto Junk, a now reunited and reinvigorated Decepticon front attacking the planet. It's not long, however, before they realize the only thing they're fighting are Junkions, and the Autobots have long since escaped. Enraged, Nova Scream transforms into his gunship mode and puts all of his power toward the planet. Just as Goo was destroyed by Galvatron, Nova Scream destroys Junkion. This brings us to the final confrontation. The Autobots have returned to Cybertron and prepared its defenses, fully expecting a Decepticon attack backed up by the Quintessons. And that is exactly what they get. The same ruse is used before of a crashing vessel of humans, which turned out to just be a decoy to let the defenses go down. So, with the shields and defenses destroyed, Decepticons fly down to attack. Again, this time bolstered by the Quintessons and their Sharkticons, which is going to provide a much bigger threat on the surface during the biggest part of the battle. Now, it is going to go poorly for the Autobots, except except until a ship starts firing down at the Decepticons, as well as more gunshots firing at the Quintesson ship. And it is a small fleet of Junkion vessels. Wreck-Gar and the survivors of Junkion have arrived on Cybertron, and they're going to help provide the backup they need to make it an even fight on the surface. Of course, while this battle is going on, Blitzwing, just as in the original, is going to go back to the Quintessons to report the current status of the battle. This is where Blitzwing, as before, discovers that this whole thing is just one big distraction, so the Quintessons can use the master control switch in the center of the planet to shut off every transformer in existence. Does not sit well with Blitzwing, and Nova Scream pretty much doesn't care. You know, he is completely blinded by the promise, just as Galvatron was. And this time, Blitzwing doesn't get physically assaulted. That's Galvatron style, not Nova Scream's. But Nova Scream is so obviously obsessed with this idea that he just pays Blitzwing no mind whatsoever, and pretty much leaves Blitzwing with no choice. He lands to the planet, face to face with Optimus Prime, and begs him to listen, begs him to hear his side of the story. And this plays out the way it did in the original show. Blitzwing does manage to convince Optimus Prime of his side. Who knows how they actually found the chamber that the Sharkticons actually made it to, but let's assume they left a trail. And just before the Sharkticons can throw the switch, Optimus and Blitzwing are the ones to make the save and stop the switch from being thrown. Optimus is contemplating destroying the switch for good until he gets gunned down in the back by Nova Scream, who enters the chamber and grabs hold of the switch. Blitzwing can do nothing to stop him from throwing it. And then everything freezes. On Earth, on Cybertron, every Cybertronian life form is essentially locked down tight. The Quintessons make their way down. They are thrilled with the job that has been done, and they're eager to finish off the leader, Optimus Prime, destroy the Matrix once and for all. That's what's led them down to the central chamber. Unfortunately, Spike is with them, and playing off the Quintesson's fear of the unpredictability of humans, Spike uses, let's say, Optimus Prime's own gun to fire the shot that destroys the switch and undoes the freezing. They quickly escape and flee the planet as quickly as possible. This leads to the same standoff we saw before, except this time, it's of course Nova Scream and Optimus Prime. It's a very different sight, except for, of course, Blitzwing, who turns his gun to Nova Scream. This battle ends now, or I shall write its conclusion. This, of course, does not sit well. Nova Scream immediately banishes Blitzwing from the Decepticons and walks off, fleeing the planet himself, with half the Decepticons in tow. Remember, most of the Decepticons were not really pleased with Nova Scream's job as leader, so now the Quintessons have a little bit more sway than they did before, because there are so many who are not willing to follow Nova Scream, either because of his failure during the Unicron incident, or just because they'd known Starscream for too long to let him get away with this. So, in this case, only half the Decepticons are left when Nova Scream makes it back to the surface and they escape. Cyclonus, Sweeps, and a select few others. All the rest left with the Quintessons. And we'll get to why here in a bit. For now, we go back to Optimus Prime and Blitzwing in the core of the planet. And now, it's time for the moment that Rodimus attempted. It looks like you've made an enemy of your former leader, Blitzwing. Yes, well, sometimes it's better to be known for one's enemies. Indeed. But you have also made a friend this day, and shown great courage to protect Cybertron and all Transformers. You would be welcome among the Autobots, Blitzwing, where you can continue to protect our planet. It may be the only place where you are safe from Nova Scream's wrath." Far more eloquent with his words than Optimus Prime was, Blitzwing takes him up on the offer. And before you go on, like, I'm going to go on and make this like a big Blitzwing thing. He's going to be a big hero and a big, champion in Season 3. I'm going to keep his role pretty subdued. He'll appear in background shots, fending off threats to the planet. Yes, he will be an Autobot, but he's not going to be like an active frontline Autobot. He's more interested in protecting the planet than serving the Autobot cause. We're never going to see him down on Earth protecting humans. But we are going to see him turning over a new leaf, trying to convince a fellow triple changer on the outs with the Decepticons that he needs to make the switch too. And who knows? He might even adopt a more heroic color scheme for his new side. But that is where the story is going to end, with a brand new Autobot joined up and Optimus Prime very aware that they now have another enemy in the universe who plots their destruction. And they are far more dangerous than they were before, thanks to the Decepticons who decided to stay loyal. Remember, Nova Scream's goal is to revive Unicron and use him as an engine of destruction. Some of the Decepticons don't want that. They want to control Cybertron again. So the ones that want that are going to side with the Quintessons, who also want to control Cybertron once more. So now you are left with a splintered Decepticon faction. Some who are going to be helping Nova Scream try and revive Unicron with more traditional storylines for the series, gathering resources, collecting Energon, trying to get the things that Unicron's head needs to regain power, and what Nova Scream needs to bring the Chaos Bringer under his control. Meanwhile, the Quintesson plots are going to be about trying to get control of Cybertron again, and ultimately just how to wipe out the Autobots in the process. So now Season 3 is going to be divided between these two styles of plotline, and it gives you a little bit of familiarity from Season 1 and 2 while still branching out and giving you some variety. The Autobots face two very big threats, even amongst a divided Decepticons, one bolstered by Sweeps and Unicron, the other bolstered by Sharkticons and the Quintessons, who are, of course, retain the planet of Quintessa as a home base, meaning they have all the resources they originally had, rather than just what was left over after the planet blew up. And that's where we're going to end the story for today. Five Faces of Darkness takes on quite a few different twists and turns. We didn't get to dive into the Matrix. We have a different destroyed planet. We have the Junkions settling in on Cybertron, likely in the crumbling remains of Crystal City, where they feel a little bit more comfortable amongst the trash and refuse. And a few changes in Season 3 that are going to be very interesting, including a returning Megatron rather than a zombified Optimus Prime. And of course, when the Hate Plague arrives, we won't see the return of Optimus Prime, we'll see the return of Rodimus Prime. Those are stories left to another day. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you want to see this story continue, or if there are other what-if scenarios you want to see me tackle. So, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of digital video fan fiction, and I hope you'll join me the next time that I decide to tell a story. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.